Next stop everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS, ready to talk the final chapter in our Trial of a Time Lord recap, review, what have you, with my wonderful partner in time, who is back from where I buried him in the constellation of Castorpris, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am good, Charles. It got up to 78 today in Dallas.
Yeah. Nice.
I would say it sounds more like he was buried on Hoth.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yes.
Woman wept.
Or maybe, since it's Doctor Who, tell us.
Yeah,
ice
there
planet.
you go.
Or the Ood planet.
The ice tombs of the of Cybermen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jesse's back, so all's good with the universe once again. And thankfully joining us once again for at least the last time for now. So I'm going to preface that, for now.
Yeah.
Rachel Frend from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast and Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast. Yay!
I'm like the Valeyard. I'll keep popping up.
Yay. There we go. So welcome back, Rachel, once again. And I'm getting a little sad because you, like I was mentioning before we started, that you've been like our constant companion, literally, these past 3 weeks and then today. So, Jesse and I, it's going to be a little weird now that, we're going to be saying goodbye to you for a little bit. But we're glad that we really appreciate you being part here to talk the entire Trial of a Time Lord.
Oh, it's been fun.
We're so glad you've had fun.
Yeah. As excited as sad as it is to reach the end, it has been very exciting to talk about it.
Well, like I said, we'll always have Big Finish audios.
Yes.
And there are plenty of those. So Something tells me this will not be the last we see of Rachel on this show, at least if I have anything to say about it.
Maybe one of these days we'll get back to doing conventions and I can have more Colin Baker stories.
Even better.
Although I have one more that I'll find some way to segue into it.
Do you want to talk about it now? We can talk about it. We can talk about it now.
Finish out now. I don't know if it would be setting the show out on the right foot or not.
It's our show. It's never out on the right foot.
Feet are involved. I guess a slight maybe trigger warning for people if you have issues with body parts.
Okay.
I was at this was in Lexington several years ago. So this was the second convention I'd been to that Colin was at. And the first day that I went was the day that we did like the professional photo op. And I dressed it was the debut of my Sixth Doctor cosplay.
Right.
I was wearing Crocs. So we had a moment where Colin and Sylvester McCoy happened to be right next to him. We were comparing our Crocs.
Yeah.
Because we were all wearing them because we're all old people and like comfy shoes. So that was interesting. But the second day of the convention, I spent pretty much all my money that I intended to spend. But, and I hope this is something that we can still do going forward in conventions too. That social distancing is less of a thing. So I didn't have really money to spend, but there was a lot of celebrities that I still wanted to like meet. So I just kind of went through and was stopping at various tables, just kind of saying, hi, big fan. I like your work. Thank you for coming to this convention type of thing. And most of them were perfectly fine with that. None of them were all like, oh, you going to spend any money? None of them were like that, which was awesome.
Well, that's good.
I found in general that a lot of celebrities really just enjoy talking to their fans, regardless of any monetary exchange. But as I'm walking around, of course, I walk by Colin's table, and there's no one there for him.
Which I find inconceivable, because I would totally be there.
Yeah. I would have hung out if they'd let me.
I believe they call that stalking. No,
Yeah, well, just wait. So, of course, there's nobody there, and this time I managed to not completely lose my mind like I did at Chicago TARDIS. So, I walked up to him and I was like, thank you for coming, and I had fun yesterday with the photo and wearing my costume and all that, and he was like, oh, that's great, and he looked at the person who was, his handler or whatever, and he was like, do you have any fingernail clippers? And she was like, no. And I was like, I do. So I offered, he had a chip nail or something that he just wanted to take care of.
Like a hangnail or something?
Yeah. I was like, I do, because I always carry around all that crap when I go to conventions, chapstick and Tylenol and all that. You got to be prepared. So I offered Colin use of my fingernail clippers. He was like, oh, great. So, he's fixing, that nail and a couple other ones. And, we're chatting. And, again, I'm telling him, how big a fan I am. And I was excited to meet him again, and how we had met previously at Chicago TARDIS, and I cried on him.
Did he remember you?
I don't think he remembered me crying on him, but he enjoyed hearing the story, I guess.
Oh, I'm sure.
And he handed me back my fingernail clippers, and then he asked me if I would like his fingernail clippings.
And you said, hell yeah.
Well, there may be a small, minuscule, tiny piece of me that wanted to say yes, but in general, I was like, as big as a fan I am, that's a step too far for me, so I will pass.
You didn't say, okay, yeah, here's a baggie. Just go ahead and put those in there. And can you autograph the baggie?
No.
I can, Sheldon, right? I can now clone from your DNA. I
Right.
can have my own doctor.
I have a piece of Colin Baker.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, but he did use the fingernail clippers, and I still own those clippers. So every time I use them, I'm like, hey, Colin Baker clipped his fingernails with these.
Very nice.
So,
well, I get the feeling that if Jesse Jackson, go ahead.
People can top. I don't think many people can top having a former doctor offer a fan their fingernail clippings.
There you go.
Any doctor.
I'd say you're probably pretty safe on that one. Yeah. And Jesse, I'm guessing that if Bruce Springsteen offered to give you his fingernail clippings, you would totally take him up on that.
I probably wouldn't. I would be more like that.
You would be more like Rachel. You would have at least some modicum of self-respect.
Yeah, do you want a lock of my hair? No, I'm okay. An extra photo maybe would be nice, but no, I don't need that.
You don't need the clippings. Okay.
No.
All right. It's interesting where we're drawing the lines here. So
yes.
So Jesse, I know that you were off last week because of what was phrased on the fandom zone, the Texicle.
Yes.
The frozen Texas that unfortunately caused a lot of power outages and is causing some water shortages in the process. So I know you talked about it on Fandom Zone, but do you want to give our Next Stop listeners at least a little update about how things are and how you've been doing this past week?
Yeah, so it was very strange. We knew that it was going to be cold weather, unseasonably cold, as in down to at one point, it was 1 degree, and that's not wind chill. That was actually temperature. Mm-hmm. And so we had planned.
We here in Ohio laugh at that, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. And we had planned to have everyone work from home starting on Monday, but we had not counted on the rolling blackouts because there are 3 power grids in the U.S. There's the East, there's the West, and there's Texas, because Texas wants to be independent. And the majority of our power comes from oil and gas and coal. So this was not a failure of wind or any green technology. This was just pure. They did not design our factories to be, they're built to handle the 100-degree heat during the summer, but they aren't built to have that. So a lot of my time was spent trying to work with agents to get them someplace warm and safe. So that's why I reached out to Charles and I said, hey, on Tuesday night, I'm like, it's 6:30 and I'm still working.
Well, we
can
totally
you
understood.
give me a pass? Yeah, and you're like, yeah, absolutely.
Rachel and I had that. We can. It's no problem. It's no big deal.
Yeah, so everyone's fine. No one in our immediate vicinity of work, friends, family were hurt. Chris spent like 4 days with us because he had no power in his apartment. So everything's back normal. And now then, and we get to mock Ted Cruz because, he flew down to Cancun because when the towing gets tough, your senator goes to Cancun. And now then he's complaining.
I can't handle these conditions. Let me cross the border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's be fair. There's always time to mock Ted Cruz.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And now then he's complaining that the people who leaked the tweets from his wife saying, hey, everyone, we're going out of town.
Yeah, the neighbors that ratted on him, yeah.
Yes. So,
why was she tweeting?
Yeah, that was wrong. But yes.
There's a little bit of boasting. Like, hey, we're all going to Cancun. If anyone would like to come with us, you're more than welcome. That kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I felt the wishes, and I appreciate it, and I'm glad to be
Well,
back.
obviously, we had a lot of our listeners. We're very concerned about you, just like on Fandom Zone. So we're glad you're okay, and we're glad you're back to talk the final part of the Trial of the Time Lord. So here at episode 220, we're going to be discussing The Ultimate Foe.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, 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 a.k.a. parts 13 and 14 of The Trial of the Time Lord. Written by Robert Holmes, at least part 13 was, and Pip and Jane Baker, who wrote part 14, and directed by Chris Clow. And interestingly, Pip and Jane Baker also wrote Terror of the Vervoids, and Chris Clow also directed Terror of the Vervoids, so they're back for this one. And of course, Robert Holmes wrote the opener, The Mysterious Planet, his last complete story. This was the fourth serial of Doctor Who, season 23, 1986, starring, of course, in his final on-screen appearance, at least as far as the Colin Baker era is concerned. Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, and Bonnie Langford as Melanie Mel Bush. And before we get started, I want to have a little bit of news of my own, so just nothing as big as you guys, because you guys had great stories. But I want to give a special thanks to Next Stop Everywhere's own Christine Peruski, who this past week sent me a little care package after listening to last week's episode. So I got the package today and opened it up, and it's a packet of Jamie Dodgers, you guys.
Nice. I just finished my
funny.
second package early.
Hey.
Yep. So I want to thank Christine for being kind enough. Now, she did say, she asked me, so what's your address? So I sent it to her, and I go, so why do you need this address? And she says, well, it's really, basically, she inferred it's none of my business, or that would be telling, that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, you can't blame me for asking, right? But I just wanted to say what a wonderful surprise, and I want to give Christine Peruski a very special shout-out for the extra calories she has sent.
Nice. That is great.
You might want to wear a bib.
Yeah.
Or some sort of crumb catcher.
That jam gets everywhere, I guess.
Well,
right?
no, it's the cookie themselves. They're very crumbly.
Well, it's a shortbread cookie, so I'm used to that, yeah.
Yeah, so just have the lint roller.
Exactly, no problem. But I was just very appreciative of that, so I wanted to say,
That's
give her
lovely.
a special shout out. So thank you, Christine, as always. All right, so back to The Ultimate Foe. Guest cast, our usual suspects, although we did get the debut, or at least return, of Anthony Ainley as the third master.
Mm-hmm.
So it was great to see him again, because we finally get to see, we did get to see them. Last we saw them together was The Mark of the Ronnie. Coincidentally, also written by Pip and Jane Baker. Go figure.
Yeah, and one of my favorites.
Yep. Jeffrey Hughes plays Mr. Pupowick. And interestingly, and since I know Rachel is a Beatles fan because, hey, she's got the handle Beatles Blonde,
Mm-hmm.
she probably knows that Jeffrey Hughes was the voice of Paul McCartney in the Beatles animated movie Yellow Submarine.
Very cool.
So Mr. Pupowick was Sir Paul.
Those are that's one of my desert island movies.
Yeah, and I have a very strong fondness for that movie. The blue meanies and all that, and I just love that. I love the soundtrack. So, James Bree plays the Keeper of the Matrix. although not much of a keeper, as it turns out.
He's fired.
Burn. So he previously appeared in the War Games, Patrick Troughton's final story, as the security chief. So he's been in the final story of 2 Doctors.
How did he go from security chief to keeper of the Matrix? He's obviously terrible at security.
Well, he's one of those politicians, or that fail upward.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
It's a political appointment.
It's a political appointment, whatever. Or just he knew the right people, or But he also played Nefrid in Full Circle, which was the story that introduced Adric during the Tom Baker era. And interestingly, he was also in the James Bond movie, so we got another James Bond connection, because he appeared in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which came out the very same year I was born, 1969. And he was also in an episode of The Prisoner. I'm a big Prisoner fan, so is Zan Sprouse. So I'm sure some of you Anglophiles out there are as well. He was in the episode Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling. So I thought I'd mention that. Trivia. There is a lot of trivia regarding this episode. Probably the best way to approach this. I mean, I'm sure, Rachel, I'm guessing you have some trivia that you'd like to share, maybe, regarding this story?
Possibly.
Okay, well, tell you what. Why don't you start with yours, so everybody doesn't have to hear me talk, and then whatever you don't cover, I'll jump in with.
Okay.
Afterward. Does that work?
Okay.
All right.
Well, as we've been talking about, as we've been covering this, the behind the scenes was fraught with issues.
Just a little bit.
That ultimately led to this is what we have as Colin Baker's final season.
This was not the original plan. Let's just put it that way.
No, not at all. But going into this final, chunk or whatever, of this 4-part larger, chunks that create the trial.
Yeah.
Robert Holmes was the scriptwriter, and he only got partway through part 13 before he had to be hospitalized and ended up dying. Before he actually finished the script.
Yeah, he was complaining of liver problems, I guess, or something.
Yeah. So Eric Sayward jumped in, being script editor.
Right.
Someone who works. It's like he's been here. Pass it along to him.
Something that a script editor is supposed to do. Yes.
Yeah, but as we've discussed, Sayward and J&T did not like each other.
No.
At all.
No. And and unfortunately, this what happened with Robert Holmes essentially sealed the deal.
Yeah.
Leading to Sayward resigning as script editor.
Yeah. So he did what he could to finish the scripts, and J&T just I don't know so much as he hated the idea of it, but I think it was more a self-preservation, a job security thing, because Sayward's script was going to end with the Doctor and the Valeyard falling essentially into the Matrix.
Right. Kind
of like Gandalf and the Balrog.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great comparison. So Fellowship of the Ring, where you see the big climactic scene.
Yeah.
Spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen that movie. It's only been 20 years, guys.
Yes.
Can't get on that one. But yeah, so Gandalf and the Balrog are like kind of fighting each other as they're plummeting. Yeah, and presumably to their deaths.
Yeah, but the idea was that it was this would be this cliffhanger that these the Doctor and the Valeyard were just going to be fighting.
Right.
As they fall into the Matrix, and it was going to be this cliffhanger so that, people would be like, oh my goodness, I can't wait till it comes back next season. Yeah. But J&T was really concerned that Michael Grade, who was the BBC controller at the time, who hated Doctor Who as a whole, would see that as a way to use it as a series finale.
Right.
And therefore J&T was like, no, we're not using your script, Eric. sorry about your luck. So they run off to Pip and Jane Baker, essentially with like on a Friday afternoon going, here's this, please write the rest of it, and I need it by Monday.
Yeah.
They had like 2 or 3 days to finish out the script, and they could not tell them anything about the plot.
Right, because apparently there was this whole thing because of Sayward
Yeah.
leaving abruptly, and apparently it was all tied up with lawyers.
Yeah.
So it was a legal issue that they weren't allowed to use any elements of his original script.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, here's this whole big season-long storyline, wrap it up, and you can't use any of the script editor's notes or original script.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck!
Yeah. And here's all these loose ends that we've had in the first 3 parts, including, it probably helped that they had written the previous part
Mm-hmm.
somewhat. But still, there's loose ends that needed to be tied up. And it's like they had no idea how he was possibly going to do it. So it was like, Pip and Jane just kind of went to work and did what they could. And all things considering, I think they did a great job.
Yeah, considering, it could have been as maybe not perfect as it is.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Considering the circumstances, right?
Yeah, which is why they're high up there for me as far as script writers are concerned.
Yeah, at least as far as emergency
they got crap
script writers.
handed, they had crap circumstances and they managed to turn it into something that, this is my favorite part out of the entire trial.
So, Jesse, are you getting the hint that this was a slightly chaotic production going on?
Yeah, and it just, and I guess when you think about it, right, that Doctor Who had been going on for so long, you just get the feeling that these last 2 Doctors, they're just a lot of wheels off moments where, because they keep cutting budgets, they're not putting as much emphasis on the writing. You have a doctor that leaves and who was wanting to stay, and then he's angry and doesn't want to come back to do the regeneration. There is just this instability on these last 2. Instability. Yeah, it's very unstable, these last 2 Doctors. Yeah. So, and I think not necessarily because of the actors, just all the other things going around. So I am not shocked to hear all this, because it seemed like they were tired of the cash cow or the goose that laid the golden eggs. They were like, we don't like this show anymore. We're done. Yeah,
pretty much. Or, this is just all corporate politics. And,
yes.
And unfortunately, this Doctor Who, the show that had been around for decades, was suffering as a result.
Yeah.
Now, that eternal battle or whatever, that combat between the Doctor and the Valeyard, I probably should mention that some version of that actually survived in what has become created by Big Finish Productions in 2015. They did a kind of not actually Colin's final outing for Big Finish, but as far as his doctor's final adventures. So they created this set called Doctor Who: The Last Adventure, which is something I'm holding in my hot little hands right here. With my spiffy homemade covers, because it was one of this big deluxe set, and I wanted to put it with my other CDs, so I made my own CD covers. So, because I'm a nerd like that. So, in the story, the Last Adventure, they have this final story called The Brink of Death, and the Valeyard actually plays a big part throughout the entire Last Adventure. So Brink of Death we've actually talked about here on Next Stop Everywhere. So if you're kind of curious to learn more about what Colin considers his official regeneration, I definitely recommend you check out that episode that we did back in the day. So, but I just thought I'd mention it for anybody wondering. This was Colin's, like I said, his last appearance, although he was unaware of it at the time of filming. He was fired by the BBC, but was invited back for a final 4-part story that would have ended in his regeneration. but he declined the offer because he didn't want to miss out finding other work in the meantime. Because, hey, he's an actor, and actors got to eat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he did offer, though, to do the entire season 24 and have the Doctor regenerate at the end of that, but this was refused by the BBC. So essentially, Colin was like, well, I'm not going to come back for just one story and regenerate. How about I just do one more season and then regenerate? And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We want you gone. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And Colin apparently later expressed regret for not filming those 4 episodes, claiming he was being, quote, selfish and, quote, not thinking about the fans. But thankfully, Big Finish came through in 2015, like I said, and came up with their Last Adventure set to kind of, in case something unfortunately happens to Colin Baker, which we obviously hope doesn't happen for many, 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 many years. But if nothing else, we do have a conclusion to his Doctor.
Although if I kept those fingernails, we could clone him.
There you go.
There we go. Yes.
See, I wasn't thinking ahead.
Rachel,
for the
come on.
fans.
All right, so if we're without a Colin Baker, it's your fault. I'm just saying. Without those clippings, we could have had something. All right. So let's see what else. Apparently, according to the commentary by Colin on the 2008 DVD release, the change to Perry's fate in Mind Warp was, according to him, the result of him idly asking a production team member if Perry had really died during Mind Warp, coupled with negative audience reaction to Perry's death. So even though Nicola Bryant liked the idea of Perry being killed off, Colin thought that, well, maybe she's not really dead, told someone in the production team about that, and so they came up with this, like, oh, guess what? She's not really dead after all. It was all the Valeyard lying.
Yeah.
Which I guess probably didn't make Nicola Bryant very happy with Colin Baker as a result.
Yeah, no, she wasn't.
Yeah. So, and this is also the last on-screen appearance of the Time Lords for 23 years. They returned in 2009's The End of Time, and were later revealed to have been sent to a pocket universe at the end of the Time War in the Day of the Doctor, which we know. Although they managed to leave somehow and were found hiding billions of years in the future in Hellbent from the Peter Capaldi era. So, and then only to end up being killed off once again in the Timeless Children. So, yeah. So there you go.
By the Master.
By the Master, yeah. So essentially it was like, Russell T. Davies saying, they're dead, and then Stephen Moffat going, no, they're not dead. And then Chris Chibnall saying, yes, they're dead. Again.
Unless the Master's lying.
Right.
Again.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows, eh? Who knows?
Yep.
All right. So that's all the trivia I've got, unless you have anything else, Rachel.
No, not really. That pretty much covers it. So,
right.
I mean, this is quick. It's only 2 parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Parts,
so, Jesse, you must have loved this one because it's only 45 minutes long.
I did love it.
So
I loved
there
it
you go.
a lot.
It's the length of a modern episode.
Yes, it was. I love that.
Okay, so you just like a quick in and out. You're gone.
Absolutely.
All right. So you must have been very happy. All right. So 3 topics today, since this is a very short story. So topic number 1, let's talk the 6th Doctor, because of course it's his final story. And we got to talk the Valeyard, obviously. And we get some big revelations regarding the Valeyard, who up until now, we thought, well, he's some prosecutor that's got it in for the Doctor. Oh, guess what? It turns out to be much, much, much more. So, Rachel, since you're our guest for this final part of the Trial of the Time Lord, why don't we start with you?
Okay.
And get your thoughts on, since your baby's final story, And in the Valeyard.
It's not the end.
It's the end, but the moment has been prepared. Oh, wait, that's a different
Yeah.
doctor. Yes.
Still.
Carrot juice, carrot juice, carrot juice.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yep.
No, I mean, what I love about this story is just the one-on-one, essentially, between the doctor and the Valeyard. Yeah, I'm always a sucker for a multi-doctor story, and in a way, this kind of is.
Yeah, technically. Or is it? We'll talk about that.
Yeah, because because we had finished the last, Terror of the Vervoids with the Valeyard, going, no, the charge needs to be genocide now,
Mm-hmm.
and now the doctor's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And the Inquisitor is all like, here's your chance. You want to call any witnesses? And he's like, any witnesses I have are all over the place, time and space, all my
Mm-hmm.
companions and all that. And Mel and Glit show up, and they're like, what are you doing here? It's like, we were sent here. And we'll get to by whom.
Wackiness ensues, yes.
Yes, wackiness ensues. But then, we discover that, yes, the Matrix can be accessed beyond just the guy with the key. The keys can be copied, and therefore the Matrix can be entered and manipulated.
Right. Just like the doctor said all along.
Yeah.
But nobody listened to him.
Yeah, everything that the doctor has been trying to use as his defense is now being proven correct.
Yeah.
And the Inquisitor she frustrates me in this one. No.
Well, we'll talk about the Inquisitor in our third topic, but
yeah. But
yeah, she's a little bit of a hardliner when it comes to trial procedure, apparently.
Yeah. But once the Valeyard makes a break for it, and the doctor follows him with Glitz in tow, whether he wanted to or not, and we entered the Matrix, which is more like this weird, like,
it's the Matrix, like the Keanu Reeves Matrix. Yeah.
It's just this weird
virtual
space,
reality.
Yeah, where reality doesn't mean anything. The laws of physics and everything are just moot.
Right.
Null and void. Anything can happen in there, and
like one big holodeck. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got the Valeyard running around, and occasionally you just hear this disembodied voice just doing, he's doing like his best Vincent Price type laugh, and it's just, yeah, I think Michael Jayston, like, this was his opportunity to really like play up the Valeyard, and before it'd been like this guy that was seeming like this prosecutor or whatever, but now we find out that no, he is more than just a fellow Gallifreyan Time Lord. He is a version of the Doctor, supposedly. This kind of evil
incarnation. Yeah.
Incarnation. All the bad parts of the Doctor that he, that the character tries not to show. The one that's willing to use violence and, lie and cheat and steal and all those things that the Master does really, really well. Everything the Master is that the Doctor is the Valeyard, essentially. So
yeah, as we find out, essentially the Valeyard is like the Master, but even worse.
Yeah.
So much so even the Master freaks. Yeah, the Master's freaked out about that. So
that tells you how bad the Valeyard is if the Master is scared.
Right. So Jesse, I want to get you to jump in. I don't want to leave you hanging. So, what was your thoughts on the Doctor facing off against his evil future, or is it ... incarnation?
So I remember when I watched this the first time, I was very surprised at the ending.
Okay.
And very confused by this was the Doctor? Wait a minute. We know it's not the Doctor because we've seen the 8th Doctor, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th. I mean, so when would this have happened? And I'm like, oh, it just must not be because I'm not used to watching Doctor Who, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I watched this again going, all right, I'm going to understand everything now. We just went through the end of last season where they talked about you could have unlimited generations,
Right.
and the Doctor may have had this whole other life where he was like he or she was an assassination maybe for hire,
Right.
or part of the, there's just all kinds of openings.
The Timeless Children, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm still confused by this. Is this the Doctor? Was it the Doctor? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, keep in mind this was made in 1986, long before a lot of everything the new Who came up with.
Yes, I absolutely get that. I just did not. I mean, I liked the Doctor. I liked he continued to be very arrogant and pushy to the Valeyard and to the court. I liked the idea of, him going into the Matrix and his foe could look differently and work through that and they go back and forth. I just didn't like the premise that it's the Doctor's future self. That just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't calculate. And I just don't. I think
the Doctor would never become something like that, even with his darker sides.
Yeah, because
because you've seen Eccleston's darker side. You've seen the Time Lord Victorious in Tennant.
Absolutely, and I get that they did not know this, but I think the War Doctor takes this premise and does it so much better. Right, that because the Doctor had to do what he needed to do, we get John Hurt's brilliant portrayal of the War Doctor, and so I think it's an interesting premise, but they didn't stick the landing.
Okay, all right. Well, I've been doing some thinking about the Valeyard, and so I want to kind of run this past both of you. So I'm kind of wondering if we've actually seen the creation of the Valeyard. And let me explain this. As we know, as we've been told, we had the Doctors 1 through 8, Paul McGann, and then we had the War Doctor, who is essentially the 9th Doctor now, right? So that makes Christopher Eccleston's Doctor the 10th, and that makes David Tennant's Doctor the 11th. But then the 10th Doctor regenerated again, so that's number 12, right? Which is why we have in the time of the Doctor, the 11th Doctor is presumably the 13th and final incarnation of the Doctor, so much so that we're told that he's given a whole new life cycle by the Time Lords, right? So in this story, in The Ultimate Foe, we're told that the Doctor is an amalgamation of the Doctor's darker aspects, somewhere between the 12th and the final incarnation. So, if the 10th Doctor, after regenerating the second time, was the 12th, and that would put between him and Matt Smith, well, what happened during that 12th incarnation? Well, we had a doctor called the Meta-Crisis Doctor, who got to go off and live a life on a parallel Earth with Rose Tyler, and Rose got her doctor boyfriend all along. So what if the Meta-Crisis Doctor is the Valeyard, or will become the Valeyard? What do you think?
Could be.
So because he has still...
And I realize I'm retconning things here because of, this is the Valeyard being introduced, but I'm trying to figure out a way to make it work.
And so therefore the second Tennant Doctor, right, had three...
two incarnations, yeah.
They had two regenerations left, right? Or three. So you're saying one of those could have been make this Doctor.
The first incarnation, or the first 10th Doctor, had two incarnations left. He regenerated in Journey's End because he got shot by the Dalek, right?
Right.
So that's number 12. And then there left only one more regeneration, which he turned into Matt Smith.
Right.
Yeah. Because at that point, the established canon was that
13.
Time Lords are supposed to have 13 lives, 12 regenerations you could use.
Right.
By the time you get to Matt Smith, he has regenerated or uses regeneration energy so many times.
So it kind of fits, really.
So the second Tennant Doctor, just to say, it goes in this parallel world.
Well, they get split.
And-
Remember, they
Right,
become
right. So that's what I'm saying.
The one doctor becomes the 12th doctor, quote unquote,
Yeah.
and the meta-crisis doctor. So essentially, there's like a split where one
Right.
becomes the doctor, and then one eventually becomes the Valeyard.
So, and that's, you're saying the meta
Crisis
doctor,
the meta-crisis doctor.
The meta-crisis doctor,
Yeah.
next regeneration, they become the Valeyard.
Or at some point in the
Well, he only
meta-crisis.
has one left, right?
We don't know.
Well, as far as we know, that as he's known in the fan fiction universe,
Yeah.
Handy.
Yeah, that's funny. I wasn't aware of that, but that's funny.
I like that.
Yeah, Handy is completely human,
Right.
and therefore can't regenerate.
Right. Unless, but so I'm just trying to figure
He's
out.
only got one heart.
Yeah. But he would
At
definitely.
the very least, he's half human, which then there's this whole other, is the doctor really half human, as he says in the TV movie? In that case, that would make Metacrisis Doctor completely human, because if he's already half human and then Donna was the other half, that would make him completely human. So,
and now we've gone cross-eyed. Yes.
Yeah, it really would depend on whether that Doctor Handy can regenerate or not,
or gains the ability somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
because they're in a universe without Time Lords.
Right. Yeah. There's
Time Lords don't exist in that universe.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out a way to make it work, because otherwise we don't know how the Valeyard was created. Otherwise.
Yeah. Or he hasn't been created yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because essentially it's 12th. He says somewhere between the 12th and final incarnation. Now apparently, now final could be like hundreds of regenerations from now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because as we learned in
Timeless Children,
in the Timeless Children, that in theory, Time Lord should be able to regenerate as many times as possible, but Rassilon decided to write into the DNA that you could only regenerate 12 times.
Yeah.
But the Time Lords are capable of handing out more regenerations, because they've given regenerations to the Master, and we're going to give the Doctor's remaining regenerations to the Valeyard.
And presumably could restrict regenerations as well. If they can if they can give them, presumably they can take them away if they wanted to.
Right. Yeah. And we don't know how many they gave Matt Smith's Doctor.
Right. Exactly. We don't know. It's unlimited as far as we know.
Whether it was a new cycle of just 13 lives, or if it's a different number, or if it's infinite. We don't know.
Or they took the original regeneration cap off and just let the Doctor be the Doctor, the timeless child again, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a great thing to be fan speculating about, I think. But
yes,
just kind of an idea that I had that maybe we can make this work, that somehow the Metacrisis Doctor could go all evil. Maybe after Rose dies, he gets really bitter and goes down that dark path that goes all Time Lord victorious and becomes the Valeyard. But
could be.
Who knows?
Okay.
But if nothing else, it makes great fan fiction, right? So go ahead. So go out there, my people, write that fan fiction. All right. Mm-hmm. But Sixth Doctor, it's Colin does, I think, a really good performance. This is probably one of my favorite stories of his, if not my favorite story of his, because it seems at long last, he's got a worthy adversary. He gets to ham it up at times, which he loves, but it's very epic in scale, this story, and as a final story goes, I mean, he could have had worse, quite honestly.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I think as a final story, it's a decent one to go out on, even though obviously we didn't get the regeneration, but we got that later, I guess. So.
And I do hate that it's carrot juice is his last line. That does seem a little,
He also used to hate that was his last line, but now he's kind of resigned himself to that's kind of life. Sometimes you just things end not on the way you wanted or expected.
Well, remember, as far as he knew, he was coming back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as he told me, he loves carrot juice, so he does that is no Biden. So there you go.
Yeah, you'd almost have to develop a like for it, appreciation for it after hearing all those carrot juice references for now going, 35 years
Yes.
since the story? Yeah. All right. Anything else about the Sixth Doctor and the Valeyard? The only thing I want to add is just I really love Michael Jayston as the Valeyard. He's a great Doctor, or a great Valeyard. Well, both, I guess. But he's a great villain, and he seems to really enjoy playing the role. So I'm really glad he returned for Big Finish to reprise the Valeyard, especially in the Brink of Death. So it's kind of nice that the Sixth Doctor's greatest enemy, and I would argue that the Valeyard is the Sixth Doctor's greatest enemy.
I mean, who else is going to be the Doctor's greatest enemy but himself?
Right, exactly. It's kind of hard to top yourself, right?
Yeah.
Your evil, side of yourself. So, but yeah, just
Why do you think evil twins are such a big thing on like soap operas?
They play off really well against each other. Those two, Baker and Jayston. So I really enjoy that bantering back and forth, and I really liked that the Valeyard he'd have these little theatrical impulses, shall we say, and he's like, I must curb these impulses of mine because he's so like, I just want to be evil, man. I want to get rid of you. That's his whole plan here, right? Is that I want to get rid of all my Doctor side so I can be like full 100% bad guy.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about these characters? All right. Let's move on. Topic number 2. Let's talk about the Master and Sabalom Glitz. So this is the second appearance of Glitz, like we talked about before when we talked the Mysterious Planet in our previous episode where we talked Dragonfire. So we've essentially covered the entire Sabalom Glitz saga, the trilogy, if you will. But we get the return of Anthony Ainley as the Master, who last we saw was slammed up against the back of a TARDIS with Ronnie as a giant dinosaur grew out of a test tube inside the TARDIS, the Ronnie's console
running around
room.
the Ronnie's TARDIS running from a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
So what happens at the end of this episode? He gets plastered against the wall of his TARDIS with Sabalom Glitz. Irony? So Jesse, I'll start with you. What did you make of the Master turning out as, like, essentially he's like almost like the Max Headroom here, where he's kind of like talking on a big screen above the trial room and essentially letting everybody know that, yeah, I've totally been listening the whole time and laughing my ass off because this is hilarious to me.
So I don't know if you or Rachel gave the new season of Batwoman a try. We changed our lead, and so I have watched a few episodes, and because I had known the new actress, I had watched her on, God Friended Me, and I really liked her. And so there is a subplot that Kate is missing.
Okay.
Find her so she can kill her. I mean, like Alice in her warped thing is no one else can kill my sister but me. So when I was watching this, I'm like, that's very similar. The Master is, oh no one is going to take down the Doctor but me. If I have to help the Doctor so that he will still be available for me to take him down, I will do that. How dare you, sir, try to say you're the, and it goes
so
back
essentially
to
you're saying the Master's like very eager to throw the Valeyard under the bus.
Yes.
Because
so
that he can be the one who kills the Doctor. So essentially it's kind of like the Joker.
Yes,
exactly.
I was
nobody else can kill Batman but him.
Exactly. So I am Batman's greatest foe, not you, Riddler, Penguin, whoever.
You're Batman's greatest foe? Holy crap.
Yeah. So I really liked that subplot about the Master being there and his kind of warped sense of, because you're like, why would the Master help the Doctor? Well, because of his ego saying... Well,
they did go to the Academy together. I'm just saying.
Right. It is, yes, they are... much
Brydonian
like
bros, yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting and kind of a nice twist. that, and yes, he is very Max Headroom, always being there, and kind of laughing and being above everyone else. I love that the Master's TARDIS.
The only thing that would have made that better.
Broken?
The only thing that would have made that better if he was like sitting there eating popcorn while he's
Exactly.
while he's watching the trial.
Yeah. Missy would have done that. Missy
totally would have done that. Yes,
yeah, Missy would have pulled that off. Like
now I want to see
like,
that scene. Yes.
Yeah, I want to see that drink with like a drink with an umbrella in it. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah, she'll be sitting there with like a margarita or whatever, just kicking back, having a good old time.
Yes, I want to see that scene too. But I just always I love seeing the the Master's TARDIS and how they make it look like all these different things the way a TARDIS is supposed to. It's like, it's a Queen Victoria statue or like a little beach house.
Yeah, because he's got a chameleon circuit that works.
Yes, his works,
His
right.
works.
And the Doctor just doesn't want it to work because he finds it charming that he can't change it.
Right.
So,
well, now after probably hundreds of years, he's probably very sentimental about it. So I get that.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I've got it the way I like it. I'm going to keep it. So the Master, we find out that the reason he got in the Matrix because he got a duplicate key, which after everybody insisting, no, you can't have a duplicate key, the Master's like, oh, yes, you can. And Glitz, meanwhile, reveals that he's got secrets that they were hoping to, those secrets, remember, that we were told about in the Mysterious Planet, they were apparently stolen from the Matrix. And that, of course, sets up a whole big chain of events and a kind of a political uprising, an insurrection, if you will, on Gallifrey. So, Rachel, any thoughts about what Glitz found and what the Master was doing in this story?
Well, I think Glitz is kind of a unknowing puppet in this. But even once he
Glitz is only
figures
pawn
out
in game of life.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the Master tries to hypnotize him and it doesn't work.
I thought that was funny because normally the Master can hypnotize anybody. And he doesn't need a little coin or whatever, or watch or whatever to do it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you.
He just
guys.
says, like, I am the Master and you will obey me.
And it's so funny, right? Like, what are you thinking? I'm thinking, what can I get for that, right? Like, just totally, like...
Glitz has got a one-track mind, and it's where is he going to get his next paycheck?
How many grots it's going to get for this?
Yeah, so, the Master's like, oh, here's a big old chest full of jewels, and, instead, it's like, it's more of my
I like the way that Glitz reaches in, and then the Master slams the chest lid down, right? Almost snapping his hand in it.
Yeah. But yeah, Glitz, I mean, when at the end and the Doctor, tells the Inquisitor, he's like, yeah, show Glitz a little leniency because he's not beyond reform. I think that's true, that Glitz, he's kind of a Han Solo where, he
does try to rescue the Doctor.
Doing good, yeah.
When that whole business in the Matrix where the Doctor gets sucked down into quicksand.
Yeah.
He does try to rush over and pull him out.
Yeah, although
why he grabs him by the ankle, the ankle armor, I have no idea.
Yeah. But I mean, Glitz had been taken in the Matrix, not of his own volition. The Doctor pulled him in there, so maybe Glitz saw saving the Doctor as a way of saving himself because he probably figured there's no way I can get myself out of here on my own.
Maybe.
Especially with the Valeyard running around. He knew he was a sitting duck, more than likely. So it could have been that. Who knows?
A little bit of self-preservation, probably involving with Glitz. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good bet.
Yeah, but he was an interesting character. The interesting choice to bring him back, but I can see why they did it. And to team him up with Ainsley's Master, and I love Ainsley's Master.
Right. He's one of my favorites too.
Yeah, and just to see him, when he first pops up on the Matrix screen, and the Doctor's like, "Oh well, I'm really done for now."
Yeah, exactly. Like, I am so screwed, you guys.
Yeah. It's like, just shoot me now and just call it.
Oh, now I am in for it. Yes.
Yes. But yeah, this whole idea that the master, one, is scared of the Valeyard, which tells you just how powerful the Valeyard is,
Yep.
and two, the master is like, I want to help you, doctor, stop this person because I want to be the one that kills you.
Yeah.
And
A little bit of professional jealousy there.
yeah, a little bit. And then he's like, as long as I'm the one trying to stop the doctor, I always have the upper hand. And I'm like, really? How many times has he beat you?
Well, at least that's how the master views it. But
Yeah.
But remember, the master's nuts. So
always the optimist.
Right.
The master at their own capabilities, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a fun pairing, not one that you would expect. But I thoroughly enjoyed both of those characters popping up. So
Yeah. And I like the fact that, the master thinks he has the doctor hypnotized. He asks Glitz to join him in another room, and the doctor's there, and there's all the big flashy light things. And then, he's pretending essentially at this point to like be hypnotized.
Yeah.
And until Mel shows up and ruins the whole thing.
Yeah. Like, your disco lights are not going to work on the doctor there, master. Yeah. Sorry.
It's like, have you seen his coat? He's not going to fall for those.
Really.
Brightly
flash
colored
colors?
Yeah.
What do you think this was going to do?
Yeah. It's like, come on, man. All right. Anything else about the master or Sablon Glitz? Okay. Third and final topic. Let's talk Mel and the Inquisitor. So Mel, who, as we're told, is as honest as they come. She's brought there essentially to be a witness for the doctor. And Glitz is brought there because, hey, he's got some secrets to spill. So what did you make? And I'll start with Rachel first on this one. So what did you make of Mel being kind of like kept out of this adventure and replaced by Glitz? Do you think it was a good move?
I mean,
because, she is the new companion.
Right. Well, she is, but she isn't because
she's a future version, or the doctor hasn't technically met her yet.
Right. Well, this doctor has not met her yet because this doctor was pulled out during Mind Warp.
Right.
So technically they have not met properly yet. So, she knows enough, I guess.
Right.
Where exactly in her timeline she got the master pulled her, we don't know. Presumably after Terror of the Vervoids, but maybe, I don't know.
I would think it'd have to be at least after Terror of the Vervoids, because remember the Inquisitor does ask her to verify her testimony about what happened with the Vervoids.
Yeah. I could see them. I could see why they kind of put her to the side because she's out of sync with everybody else.
And not really essential to the plot.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, they do use her for that fake out, which is interesting in the fact that, that Mel, the fake Mel, talks about something that the real Mel didn't experience, and that kind of gives her away. But, it shows at the very least that, the Mel at this point has been traveling with the doctor long enough that she obviously cares for him, and is willing to, do what she can to save him.
And be loyal to him,
And be loyal to him, which is more than I can say for the Inquisitor.
Right.
This, when we get this big revelation that the Valeyard is, the doctor essentially, and the doctor's like, well, now, you can't have a trial where the defendant and the prosecutor are essentially the same person, and the Inquisitor is like, that doesn't matter. I'm like, yes, it does.
And the doctor's like, what?
Common sense would dictate that was, regardless of what this trial is about.
I think somebody needs to have. I think we need to have an inquisition on the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
For the way she handled this trial.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does make sense. You would think of like
she's trying to remain neutral, but Seriously.
So do you think it was political, or do you think that because apparently, one of the things we find out in this is that this whole trial, thanks to the Master, is being broadcast all over Gallifrey. Because the Master's hoping to use it to encourage people to revolt against the High Council.
Yeah.
Which they do, apparently.
Yeah.
So do you think it was more political that she wanted to go through with the trial, or is it just like she's just a stickler for the rules?
Yeah, I think so. I think she was just so like I have a job to do. The High Council gave me this task, and dognabbit, I'm going to see it through.
So she does ask. The Inquisitor does ask the Doctor to become Lord President again. Yeah, and
he's like, no, but you should run.
Yeah, you should run. So he's like, if my recommendation's worth anything, you have my vote. But
yeah, it's like it's only till after the Doctor stops the Valeyard from blowing like the Matrix up, and therefore everybody, the entire jury and everything to smithereens with
that whole station.
This whole crazy contraption thing. It's only then where she's like, don't worry about it. You're fine, Doctor. By the way, Perry's alive, and how would you like to be president again?
Yeah, what do you think of the way she just casually mentioned, oh, yeah, hey, in case we forgot, because since we're kind of wrapping up this story, Perry's alive.
Yeah.
There is a whole lot of, and by the way, and oh, by the way, and oh, by the way, versus,
I think that was Pip and Jane Baker going, and this, we got to tie up this.
We got to check this box, check this box, check this box.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So, Jesse, what about you? What did you think?
Well, a lot what you guys had said already. Mm-hmm. I did enjoy, and we didn't talk about when we talked about the Doctor, but the whole fake trial scene where he's quoting, A Tale of Two Cities, and it's a far, far better thing
that I do than I've ever done before. Yeah,
and everything. So I love that.
It's like message Spock. Oh wait, that's Star Trek 2. We just talked about that on Drunk Cinema.
Yes. And then
Kirk,
the undiscovered
and
country.
Then Kirk shows up. Yeah,
Kirk's too. Yeah.
Kirk.
What I loved is, and you're right, where she goes, well, okay, we put you on trial. We turned out that this was all this kind of big mistake.
No hard feelings?
No hard feelings?
We're cool, right? We're totally cool.
Yeah. Hey, you and me, let's go joyriding in the TARDIS. So it was very, very funny. Mel did not have a lot to do, and I was okay with it because, I love our roguish, Herring Mudd type character, so I thought that was a fun way to be in the Matrix together. He and the Doctor have good chemistry.
So do you think Glitz so you bring up a good point. Do you think Glitz makes a better companion for the Doctor than Mel does?
In this case, I don't know consistently, but I think
for this story.
Yeah, this story where they're trying to, all the wheels among wheels. This is kind of
right.
Wibbly
wobbly, timey wimey.
Yeah, I think he was well done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yeah.
So what did everybody make of the big little cliffhanger, sort of, where we find out that the Inquisitor is telling, it's kind of like in the aftermath, and the Inquisitor is like getting ready to leave, and she tells the Keeper to, hey, how you kind of sucked with the security of the Matrix? Well, why don't you do something about that and get Glitz and the Master out of there while you're at it? And, you can requisition anything you need. And then the Keeper's like, okay. And then all of a sudden turns around and reveals to the audience, kind of breaks the fourth wall a little bit, that, oh, by the way, it's the Valeyard in disguise. He's alive. So he's not dead after all. Ready for a rematch on Big Finish Audio.
Yeah.
So the first time you saw this, I know you've seen this before, but the first time, were you surprised that the Valeyard, pops up at the end?
Nah.
And apparently nobody recognizes him as the prosecutor.
Yeah,
It's the collars.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
high collars. They can't see what they look like.
Right. It confused me, Charles, when I watched it the first time, and I still was a little confused, even though I kind of remembered that shock.
Right.
As I said,
But
I
now
just
the
don't
second
feel...
time, did you appreciate it more this time?
No, because once again, I don't feel like they stuck the landing on this storyline, so
Okay.
I just didn't get that.
All right. Okay. Well, anything else that anybody has they want to talk about this story before we move on? I don't want to. All right.
I'm good.
All right. So we ready to kind of close the case of the trial of the Time Lord?
The defense rests.
The defense rests. Okay. And I pronounce it guilty. 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 So, all right. Favorite quotes, best lines of the episode. Anybody got any favorite quotes they want to share? I've got a big one.
Oh, the doctor's speech.
Yeah, the doctor's
when he
speech.
goes off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who wants to do the doctor's speech? I could do the
I-
doctor's speech.
I have
I don't know if I can do a worthy.
Yeah, you do. I have a small one.
Yeah, go ahead.
When the doctor walks in, there's supposed to be a waiting room, and goes, "This is a very odd waiting room. Well, where are the hopelessly out-of-date magazines?"
I like that line. I thought that was a
I
good
did
line.
too.
I thought that was clever.
And then, unfortunately, this is so true, or actually, this is not true in today's world. For a lie to work, madam, it must be shrouded in truth. The master. In today's politics, it doesn't have to have truth in it. They can just flat-ass lie. But I thought that was the master saying that, I thought was really, I made a note of like, okay, that's true, because, he is clever, and he is the doctor's, equal to the doctor in a lot of ways.
All right, Rachel, did you want to do the quote? Because I don't want to steal it from you if you did.
I can try.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. It's your doctor. I'll let you go ahead and do that one if you want.
Yeah. In all my travelings throughout the universe, I've battled against evil, against power-mad conspirators. I should have stayed here, the oldest civilization, decadent, degenerate, and rotten to the core. Ha! Power-mad conspirators, Daleks, Centaurans, Cybermen. They're still in the nursery compared to us. 10 million years of absolute power. That's what it takes to be really corrupt.
Nicely done. Excellent.
Well done. Well done.
Well done. All right. Got any other quotes that you want to share? Good job.
Yeah, I do like when the master is like talking about his plan, and Mel is like, "How utterly evil," and the master's like, "Thank you."
Yeah. Tell me more.
Yes.
Tell me more. Tell me more. All right.
Yeah.
I've got a couple quotes I liked. Let's see. Sabalom Glitz talking to the doctor, where he hands him a note from the master. He's like, "Here, this is for you. Now, if you don't mind telling me, how do I get out of here?" And the doctor looks at the note and says, "It's from the master." And Sabalom Glitz replies, "I know. I've just given it to you." So much for the vaunted intellect. Yeah. And then, the doctor again with Sabalom Glitz saying, the doctor says, "He's playing games. Wants to humiliate me first." And Sabalom Glitz replies, "Oh, I see. He humiliates you by throwing harpoons at me." And lastly, the doctor with the master saying, in the trial room, the doctor says, "Just a minute. Did you call him the doctor?" And the master replies, "There is some evil in all of us, doctor, even you. The Valeyard is an amalgamation of the darker sides of your nature, somewhere between your 12th and final incarnation, and I may say you do not improve with age." So, a little cattiness from the master there, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, you got to get cattiness after survival, right? Just
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes.
all right. A little in joke for you classic Who fans. All right. So, what's everybody's ratings for this one? Rachel, I'll start with you first, since this is your final part here in the Trial of the Time Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Give us your rating.
Well, I mean, as I said, this is my favorite
Yeah.
out of the entire thing. Though it's just some great character bits. Pip and Jane Baker, for all things, considering what was going on behind the scenes, they were able to pull it out of somewhere to a really good
Some
story.
particular body part they
tying
pulled it out of, you're saying?
Yeah, tying up some, a lot of loose ends. Obviously, they couldn't. It wasn't going to be perfect considering the situation, but I think all things considered, I think they did a fantastic job. This is Colin's doctor in this right here.
So what's your rating?
I enjoy the others, but this is my favorite, and I think I would give this a good, solid 9 pairs of ankle armor.
Excellent. All right, a very strong rating from Rachel. Jesse, how about you?
So I'm a little less, though I did enjoy this one a lot. I enjoyed this whole season. It was a lot of fun, and I applaud you getting such a great companion and to talk about the whole season. We don't.
Well, who's better to talk about the Sixth Doctor than Rachel? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Nobody.
And it's kind of nice to being able to watch them all in a row, and it was just really lovely. But I'm going to give this one 8 out of 10 feather quills.
Ooh, you pretty like this one. All right.
I did, yes.
Okay. I'm kind of with Jesse on this one. I really liked it. I thought it was this is my favorite story of the Trial of the Time Lord, and I love the idea. I thought it was it's a cool idea. You have the Doctor against his future evil self. So I'm going to give this one 8 out of 10 Postidian life preservers.
Oh, very nice.
In honor of Sablon Blitz.
Good.
All right. So solid 8s from Jesse and I, but a big 9 from Rachel, you guys. So that's cool. All right.
Very nice.
Reverse the verse of the polarity. Well, we've kind of talked about this one couple times. We mentioned it here and there. This one should be pretty obvious, I guess. So if you enjoyed The Ultimate Foe, you might want to check out, if you're looking for a modern story, I guess I got to go with The Timeless Children, right? The 10th episode from Series 12, 2020, written by Chris Chibnall. We've talked about this pretty recently, so I won't go into the full thing, but obviously there is, a renegade Time Lord known as the Master appears in that story, persuades the 13th Doctor to join him on Gallifrey, where he forces her to enter the Matrix. So we've got the Matrix in play, and as it turns out, we find that the Doctor ends up having to escape at the very end of the story as this explosion consumes Gallifrey. So kind of a big deal. And the Doctor's companions arrive on contemporary Earth in their own TARDIS, while the Doctor lands another TARDIS near her own. And then obviously there's a cliffhanger where as she prepares to take off, she's arrested by the Jadoon and teleported to a prison where apparently she spends quite a long time, as we find out, waiting for Captain Jack to show up. But that's another story. All right. So the Timeless Children, there's the Master having fun with the Matrix once again. So
I would also argue that with that maybe not specifically for this, The Ultimate Foe, but also just kind of the Trial of the Time Lord thing as a whole.
Yeah.
I would also recommend Hellbent and Heaven Sent.
That's a great one too.
Because that shows the Doctor being manipulated by the Time Lords.
Right.
And the return of Gallifrey, and we see some of that Gallifreyan politics again.
Yeah, that's another great recommendation. And
it's a great performance by Peter Capaldi, who I think is probably the new Who contemporary to the Sixth Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, he as far as temperament goes, a lot of ways. He was the more guarded and a little off-putting doctor. So, yeah, I definitely argue that. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. All right, listener feedback. Well, we only have 2 this week, but it's by 2 of our favorite people. So, Jesse, do you want to read one while I read the other? I can't hear you because you're muted.
Which one do you want me to do?
Whichever one you want. I'll do dealer's choice. You've been off for a week. You get whatever one you want.
I'll do Holly since that's it. Is the one that's I've got open. Hey, okay. Charles, Jesse, and Rachel.
Hi, Holly.
The wrap up of the trail.
You mean the trial?
Trial, yeah. God, why can I not read? Maybe you should do both of them. Of the trial. The doctor brought up a good point that keys can be copied and those in charge can. Why is Charles in the middle of my screen? Skype.
I'm okay. Are you okay?
Yeah, I know. You truly are. I'll do a screenshot to show you. It is. I haven't been able to. Let's see. And I'm worried if I close this. Okay, good. I'm still there. Am I?
Am I freaking you out? I'm totally freaking you out.
No, you're not at all. Yes.
All right. Back to Holly.
Yes. The doctor brought up a good point that keys can be copied and those in charge can pass those keys off to those who are up to no good without them being any the wiser. The phrase Jedi mind trick instantly springs to mind. Ah, hello, Glitz. Been a while since we've seen you last, and now the Master finally shows up, and that the Matrix indeed has been hacked. The reveal that the Valeyard was the incarnation of the Doctor between his 12th and final incarnation surprised me when I first saw this. Wonder how he fits into this now with what had happened with the Doctor in his regenerations in New Who.
Well, we just talked about that.
Charles keeps a little pretty good theory.
I have a theory.
Yes, of course the High Council is behind everything in this trial. Of course the Master is out for revenge, both against the Doctor and whoever on the High Council kicked him off. Ah, good on Mel for taking things in her own hands to try and let the Doctor know that he's been tricked. Did the Doctor just find out a plot to get rid of high-ranking Time Lords? Of course. The Valeyard was Popowick, and he and the Master probably would have gotten away with it, what they planned too. If it wasn't for that.
It wasn't those meddling kids.
Doctor, yes, well done, Al.
Those meddling Time Lords.
Yes. The news that Perry is still alive at the end when I first saw this made me very happy. All in all, a decent wrap-up to the trial as a whole. I'll wrap it up here, Holly from Wisconsin. Thank you as always, Holly. We always love reading your emails.
Thank you, Holly. Yeah, that's one of the things we didn't talk about was, what did everybody think of the whole Popowick thing? Do you think it was just more kind of filler, or do you think that it was a good little disguise of the Valeyard? Just to mess, because apparently he just wanted to mess with the Doctor.
Yeah.
He's like, I got nothing better to do. I'm just going to put on this disguise and, you know.
I mean, it was a really good disguise. I mean, as far as, obviously that's not Michael Jayston running around the entire time, but like when they do the mask peeling off, the mask that they created was really well done.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very Mission Impossible-ish.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, now than modern era. And and I just loved, as, you know, there was a while they had a follow-up to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy Infocom game called Bureaucracy that Douglas Adams helped. And it reminded me a little bit of that, about all the bureaucracy about, do you have an appointment? You can't go anywhere without an appointment. No, you can't go there.
Yes.
You know, that was kind of fun.
Well, I played, of course, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy game by Douglas Adams that he did for Infocom. And,
yeah, that's what he said. And then he did a bureaucracy, too.
Yeah, I didn't do the bureaucracy game, but yeah.
Yeah, I loved Hitchhiker's Guide. I played that thing over and over and over again.
The best game for the best book. All right. So also writing in once again, David K. Proctor is, of course, we call him Dave because we're cool. He says, hello, everyone in the TARDIS. Well, hello, Dave. The story is a real mind twister. The unreality of the Matrix only compounds that. I know why Neo hated it there. But he knows Kung Fu. So it wasn't all bad, right? So the Valeyard is the distillation of all the Doctor's evil parts. The Master cannot deal with competition. The BBC is letting J&T run an institution into the ground. Well, that's pretty much what happened. All of this is hard to swallow, except for maybe that J&T part, right? I look forward to hearing how all of you work it out, and by the time you're reading this, I will have heard how you did it. How's that for a timey-wimey comment?
Good point.
The Sixth Doctor isn't my favorite, but I do like him okay. I don't dislike any of them outright. He was robbed of a good send-off. I'm sure Rachel would agree with you on that. Let BritBox play into the next episode, and I was again saddened by that this had been Colin Baker's final story on screen. Maybe this slide to ruin, no intended slight on Sylvester McCoy, made Modern Who possible. Big Finish Audio should get someone to animate their Sixth Doctor stories and release them on Blu-ray. I'm right there with you on that one, Dave. I'm sure Rachel would love more Sixth Doctor visual goodness, right? Even if it's animated.
Oh, yes.
You down with that? I'm sure
there
is
Sixth Doctor just stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure there is a market. As a completist, I'm sure I'd watch them. Well, you and me both, and obviously Rachel would too. Jesse, I don't know, because he's a little iffy on the animation sometimes, right?
I would give it a try.
Oh, you would give it a
that.
try?
Yeah,
right.
I would, yeah.
All right, that's fair. I've gotten all the animated and missing episodes that are available, and I slide into them where they should fit. Yes, because, well, you should, because essentially they're just rebuilding the stories. A question perhaps you have answered already. Does the Valeyard ever get mentioned again? And like I said, well, yes, because he turns up on Big Finish Audios. He does, every so often they kind of reference him on the TV series, but they never really talk about him.
Outright, yeah.
Yeah, so I think, honestly, I think the Valeyard's due for a comeback in the modern era. What do you think, guys? Would you like to see the Valeyard again?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, obviously played by a different actor probably this time.
Yeah, but I mean...
Or do you like... what's the point?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he could find an argument for both. It would just be interesting to see how, assuming it's, whether Chibnall's still in charge or, whoever the next showrunner is, figures out how to make it work. I mean, especially now, we were trying to figure out maybe how the Valeyard fits with the doctors that we know, but now that Chibnall's opened up to early, pre-Hartnell doctors, maybe that 12th and final incarnation, that count starts earlier than that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, yeah, the Valeyard could be pre-Hartnell for all we know. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good question.
We don't know how many times the Doctor regenerated before we got to Hartnell.
Well, I would argue that thanks to the Timeless Children, there's plenty of places that the Valeyard could come from.
Yeah.
In the Doctor's
there's
timeline.
There's a lot of open area to work with, which I'm totally down for, just bringing in other Gallifreyans and or Time Lords beyond the Master.
I know the Timeless Children has its detractors, but I agree with you because that's one of the things I love about it. There's so much story potential here.
Mm-hmm. And I do not like the decision to destroy Gallifrey again, and I'm hoping that the Master is lying,
right?
Or we could retcon that, because I don't want to be in Gallifrey all the time, but I like the idea that is something you can go to every couple of seasons from a different perspective, and also it was always fun when the Doctor ran into someone else from Gallifrey, either as a friend or a competitor, and so I think it's a sadder series without that background there.
Okay, well, even if Chris Chibnall doesn't bring Gallifrey back, that doesn't stop a future showrunner from bringing Gallifrey back.
Exactly.
All right. So they're not gone as long as we remember them, right? So let's see. I give this story closer. 6 coats of many colors. I give the overall arc 7 pairs of ankle armor. Well, Rachel gave it a little higher with the ankle armor, but stay well, stay warm, especially you, Jesse, as Texas tries to thaw. stay sane. Well, that's always dubious for yours truly. Thank you, David K. Proctor. So thank you, Dave. Great to hear
Thank you,
from you
Dave.
once again.
Yes.
And thank you,
Appreciate
Holly.
you.
And if you want to be like Holly and Dave, please do. Write in. We'd love to hear from you. So write to us at nextstopeverywheresmg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywheresmg for Southgate Media Group at gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at nextstopsmg on Twitter. Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, or Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. And Rachel, where can they find you and hear more, say, on a Five-ish Fangirls podcast or maybe a Gold Standard, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, you can hear me pretty much every week on the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. We are a geek, pop culture, entertainment culture podcast where we talk books, movies, video games, all things geeky and nerdy from the female perspective. And we can be found pretty much wherever you find podcasts, or as we like to say, anywhere podcasts are sold, but ours is free.
Right. That's a good one.
Most are. Yeah. And also at the5ishfangirls.com, where you can connect with all of the podcast social media handles, along with all of our personal ones if you'd like to connect with us individually. And then Gold Standard is a bi-weekly podcast I do with DJ Nick and Zan Sprouse, who you should know.
Yeah, I'm a little familiar with Zan. Yeah,
yes.
A little bit.
Yeah, where we are watching and reviewing every Academy Award winner for Best Picture in chronological order. We are still solidly in the 1940s as of this recording, working our way into hopefully color.
It's coming. Don't
Best
worry.
Picture winners.
It'll get there. Just be
No.
patient.
Thankfully, some of the fellow nominees are starting to get into color. So as I'm watching like peripheral movies, every now and then I'm like, yay, something in color. So
you can always adjust a tint on your television, see if that helps.
That's true. Although I'm not watching It's a Wonderful Life again to watch the colorized version. So sorry.
Okay.
That's what year we're in, 1946. So.
Right.
As of our next recording. So yeah, but we Gold Standard could be found again wherever you can find podcasts, and also on Facebook. Just look for Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast.
Sounds great. And everybody, please, I'm going to tell everybody, go listen to these podcasts. They're fantastic. And Rachel is fantastic on them. All right, Jesse, how about you? Where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on the internet right now. On Twitter.
You'll find me on
Twitter
internet.
Yes. Jesse Jackson DFW. You can hear me. Currently, Charles, Nick, and I are all talking WandaVision.
Yeah, we are.
We are having such a good time talking about a wonderful show. Yeah, it is really, really cool. And then Set Leslie Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast, where I have to get Rachel sometime to join me so we can talk Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
She'll do that,
That's
sure.
my speed.
Yes, though
I'll join you for that one, too.
I don't know if you guys heard, but there is new competition in the Springsteen podcast world.
Uh-oh. Who are they, and where can we destroy them?
Oh, Renegades, Born in the USA, a Spotify original where it's going to be an 8-episode Barack Obama and Bruce Springsteen talking.
Oh, I heard it. Yeah, I heard about that.
That's as somebody said, yeah, I've heard of those two guys. It's like me. So, yes.
You got them coming up on your show, right?
Right, yeah, I did. I made the joke, hey, if you guys need to promote this, because, no one's going to hear about a little podcast.
Podcast crossover.
I'm on Barack's texting line. I'll just send him a quick text saying, hey, you weren't first.
Like, hey, we should do this first.
You're late to the game. Please contact Jesse.
So I really do. March is going to be Friendship Month on Springsteen. I have 8 episodes all lined up where people have met because of Bruce Springsteen's music, and they're sharing their stories of some of them are in the same towns and some of them in different countries, and their friendship has been born because of their mutual love of music. And like Charles and I, our origin story would have been a mutual love of comic books.
Right.
And so I'm really excited about seeing that. And yes, Rachel, we will have you on to talk Beatles. But hey, Charles, when you're not talking Doctor Who, and when you're not talking WandaVision, don't you do a couple other little podcasts?
It's been known to happen. As for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Which is very appropriate since today is February 24th as we're recording this. Happy Twin Peaks Day, everybody. So, yeah, you can find all my stuff that we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, including Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish Audios, and more. All kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including, well, hey, the aforementioned The Fandom Zone podcast, where, like Jesse said, we're talking WandaVision right now, because we only got 2 more episodes of WandaVision, sadly, and but after that, we're going to do like a one-off where we're going to talk Superman and Lois. So that's going to be a lot of fun because I just watched the Superman and Lois pilot last night, and that was awesome. I loved it.
Someone tweeted that this pilot was one of the best Superman movies ever made. Now, I will not go all that way because you and I both have a love about Christopher Reeves, the original
Christopher Reeve singular. There's only one Christopher Reeve. Keep that in mind.
The amazing book, but I do think I am really looking forward to a couple of weeks talking about this because the pilot was amazing.
Yeah, so we're going to have fun talking about that and maybe the next couple episodes as well by the time we get to it. Yeah. And then Ghostwood Twin Peaks podcast, where, like I said, hey, it's Twin Peaks Day, where Zan Sprouse, whom you've heard something about recently when Rachel was talking about it, and I talk all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and coming up just tomorrow, we're going to be recording the very interestingly G-rated David Lynch film that he did for Disney. Yes, David Lynch did a G-rated film for Disney. I'm not kidding about that, called The Straight Story, and I just finished watching it today, and it's very good. I think you all should watch it. I think you'd like it. I think Jesse might like this one. It's on Disney Plus if anybody wants to check it out. And so come on, and then after you watch it, check us out on Ghostwood as we'll do our little discussion of that. And I think it's going to be a very, unique discussion because, for one thing, Zan and I haven't seen this movie until, like I said, just today. So it's going to be very interesting to discuss a movie that we just both recently watched the first time ever. And then also, while you're at it, check Zan and I out on Drunk Cinema, where we just recorded our Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan episode. Had a lot of fun with that. Zan had a lot of alcohol once again, and it made for a very entertaining discussion. And I hope everybody that did listen to it enjoyed it. If you haven't, check us out, because especially if you're a Star Trek fan, or if you just enjoy movies in general, because we've talked other things like Young Frankenstein, Buckaroo Banzai, Die Hard, and others. So check us out there. We definitely appreciate it if you did. Otherwise, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us for these 4 stories.
Oh, thank you.
We did the entire trial, all 14 parts.
We did.
And we're very appreciative that you came and joined us 4 weeks in a row. I know you got a very busy schedule. You've got other podcasts to do, so we definitely appreciate you making room for us, even if it is to talk your all-time favorite Doctor.
Yeah.
So hopefully there wasn't much arm twisting involved there.
Yeah. Oh, this was awful. I hated it. No, this has been a lot of fun. I'm always excited to talk Doctor Who in general, but anytime that I can talk my Doctor and talk up my Doctor, considering how low on the totem pole he tends to be with a lot of people, is always aces in my book. So
well, he certainly can do worse than to have you in his corner.
Yeah. Yes, I am a Sixth Doctor fan until the end of nail clippings or otherwise. So.
Well, we thought you did a great job, and I just want to say you're always welcome back anytime.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right. Jesse, thank you as always. I thought you did a great job coming in after a week off, and at least you were here for the ending, so you got to wrap things up.
I appreciate. Yeah, it was nice you guys covered for me next week. And I'm excited. Last week. And what are we doing next week?
Timey-wimey. Yes. Yeah, well, on that subject, hey, next time on Next Stop Everywhere, episode 221, as we finally leave the Colin Baker era. Because this was actually the last televised story that we haven't talked about from Colin's era. So we've kind of covered all the Colin's televised stories, with maybe the possible exception of Dimensions in Time.
Hey, I'm willing to do it.
We'll see. If anybody wants us to do Dimensions in Time, we could do it. But
I am willing to do it.
all right.
You got the Sixth Doctor and the Brigadier appearing on screen together, and the Ronnie. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Well, maybe if we do that at some point, we'll have you back on, or otherwise you can come back on whenever you want. But next time on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to be we're moving into the Sylvester McCoy era, as my Ghostwood and Drunk Cinema co-host Zan Sprouse returns to Next Stop Everywhere. Very excited about this, of course, as we discuss probably the oddest story that Doctor Who has ever done, Ghostlight. So who better talk Ghostlight than Zan and yours truly?
Perfect.
The Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast team, ready to talk Ghostlight. I can't think of anybody better.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure Zan's looking forward to it because, hey, she's a big Ace fan. So she was definitely eager to talk about this. And hopefully, Jesse, you're up for this one.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's only a 3-parter, so you should be pretty down with this one because that comes out to an hour and say 5 minutes.
Good.
Total.
Sounds perfect.
So this should be right up your alley.
Yay, I'm excited.
All right. So Rachel, thank you again. Can't wait to have you back on the podcast. So start thinking about some stories you want to talk about and maybe some Big Finish audios you want to talk about.
Oh, definitely.
So start going through your CD collection. And Jesse, thank you again. And everybody else, we'll see you next time right here, episode 221, Ghostlight with Zan Sprouse. Yours truly, Jesse Jackson. And we'll see you next time right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.